Welcome to the IWDR tutorials. In this lesson, we'll learn how to enter Estrus details, and we would find the instructions here on the IWDR website in section 5.2, Estrus details. First, we need to go to the particular dog of interest. That can be done here in the Estrus Whelps tab. And in this case, we want to update the information on dog Rue. And we could simply just see that she's there at the top, or we could go ahead and select her record and search for it just to get her. Another way to access her record would be to go to My Dogs and select Rue's name, and then we would search, and we would pick the correct dog here and go to Estrus Whelps. You'll see the information here in this location. This is the estrus itself. We'll close the window, and we would go to the estrus mating details and add a record. If you're going to add a lot of information, it's actually easier to use the Estrus Whelps tab for a few reasons. One is that you can see all the information in a row. Here on one page, you can scroll up and down, and you can view the top information, which is the basic information about the estrus, and then you can go ahead and add in estrus details. That feature is not available from the My Dogs. So to add that, we would just simply enter information about her, and we're going to indicate that on day 2 of her heat here, we're entering a brucellosis test, and we will indicate that it was negative, and we'll save our record. We could put comments in as well if we wish. And we'll also indicate that we'll do a progesterone test, and we're going to do that on this day as well, and indicate progesterone. And the value is she's quite low. She's not ready to breed by any means. She's still very early. And as the heat progresses, we can come back into this record, and we can perhaps do additional progesterone tests. So let's imagine that she's progressing along, and it's now December, and she's becoming pretty close to being ready to breed. So we not quite ready, but she's reached that point where she's what we call LH equals 0. The luteinizing hormone is reached the start of the rise, and we'll go ahead and enter that. And now that we know that it is deemed to be LH0, and that's something that if you're not familiar with the luteinizing hormone and the use of progesterone, we can provide some information about that. But generally speaking, we can indicate that on the 7th of December, she did reach that point, and that helps us to time the timing of her due date based on the luteinizing hormone. The database will automatically calculate that. So we've also want to indicate that a couple days later, we will inseminate her because she'll be ready to breed. So usually they're about day 4 or so after, although it varies. Some organizations do 3 and 5, some do 4 and 6, but let's just say that we're only able to breed her once, and all of our indicators are that she's ready to breed. So we're going to put in our date, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to say on the 11th of December, we are going to do an insemination. And we have the male right here, so we're going to do a natural mating. And we don't have to fill in the multi-sire unless you're using multi-sire. In this case, we're only using one sire. We might indicate that the tie was a good tie. She was very receptive. And you can indicate other records as well by entering more inseminations or more details. When the litter is ready to whelp, we'll be able to indicate that through the whelp date, but let's just go back to the list here and indicate that we're closing the record, and we'll say time has passed and now we're ready to enter the whelp information. So to do that, we go back here and enter the whelp date and so forth, but excuse me, but we didn't actually save this particular indicator. So that was why it said leave the page. So here on December 11th, we indicated the LH equals 0 on that day, and I had forgotten to save the record. So here you can see that the due date is now February 14th based on the LH equals 0 date. You can edit that if you change your mind and find that the progesterone tests are indicating something different. But now we'll go back to the list and we can see there's no error message asking if we want to leave the page or not. So you'll also see that here on the list page, it's called, where Rue's record is, because we've entered the LH date and we have an insemination, it's indicating that her ultrasound is due on January 18th, and here's her due date. And we've been kind of playing around with the database here and putting in future dates. So the day of her heat will actually keep adjusting as the real dates go ahead. And when you look at the database, but in this case, we're kind of doing a fake record. If we'd like to do our ultrasound here on the 18th, we can go ahead and enter that on January 18. I have to change the year here to be 2019. And we'll have to do that actually in another screen. So I'm going to make it actually for December 30th. And we're going to go ahead and enter the pregnancy check. And we'll say that we did an ultrasound and she is pregnant. And we saw, let's make it a big litter, 9 pups in the ultrasound. And we'll see what happens over here in the record is that we can see the pregnancy has now changed to pregnancy confirmed. That's a field that's updated by data you enter. You can't change the data, but if you are doing ultrasounds or other, you can see, and that's a nice way to sort for all of your litters that are in heat or the estrus that are in progress, and you can see which dogs might be due for an ultrasound that haven't had them yet, or any other care that you need to do.